The first event we had was on Friday last weekend, and that was a quiz organised by the Student Union officers. It's a sort of low-key event to start the week off. Not all the students have arrived by the first Friday. They sort of arrive over the weekend, so the numbers build up. And it's a nice introduction in a way where they can meet new friends in a sort of safe environment, if you like. The first big event was the Freshers Icebreaker Tour on the Saturday night, where we had nearly 1,000 people attending in the tent. Yeah, our licence allowed us to operate till past 2 a.m. And in the Bell tent we had a large bar as well as the main bar in the Student Union, which is very close by, so students had the choice of the two venues. Yeah, well, all events we run have to be risk assessed, and obviously in the current COVID scenario, the risk assessments have been very robust. And part of that obviously is the provision of alcohol. So alcohol is provided via the bar in the marquee itself and in the Students' Union. We have robust level of security staff available. So if there are any issues with excessive drinking or people getting themselves into a bit of a pickle, then we have people whose job it is to monitor that and make interventions where necessary. The whole of Freshers Week is supported by St John's Ambulance being on site to help with any medical issues and things like that. I have to say that we found this year, whether it's anything to do with COVID or not, despite the really high numbers, students have been really well behaved, and we've had very few, if any, incidents that have required the intervention of security. Up until a couple of weeks before, we didn't know what exactly we could and couldn't do. Consequently, as I said, we did a very robust risk assessment and gave ourselves various options in terms of operationally. The way we managed it in the end was we insisted that all students did lateral flow tests within 24 hours of each event, and they had to evidence that to us to gain a wristband, which then got them fast track entry to the events on that night. We had various other mitigations for COVID. The fact we did it outside in a marquee with the sides removed was because that obviously increases ventilation, which is now considered to be the main sort of mitigator in terms of the COVID risk, apart from stopping people going in at all, who have COVID symptoms. So yeah, that was all part of the plan really. And then we had sanitise stations on the way in, advice on distancing and mask wearing, and yeah, a full suite of measures, if you like. We, along with colleagues in the Students' Union, are monitoring it ourselves on the conventional known channels that the students use as various Freshers Facebook pages and things like that. The individual events organisers, because some of it was contracted out, would have been doing that themselves. But we could also tell things like how long students stayed at events is a good measure of whether they've engaged with it or not, or if they leave early. And some of the events worked better than others in that sense, and we noted that for future reference. Yeah, we'll work with the Students' Union this week. We'll have a major debrief this week, and we'll work with them to put together a questionnaire via social media on how they found the events. We do that every year, and it always helps us improve the sort of service for the following year. It's certainly changed a lot. When I arrived in Aberystwyth, the old model where basically you just opened the doors and they came, has changed very significantly, and I think a lot of student unions, well, I know a lot of student unions suffered financially as a result of that, and the market has moved far more to daytime venue, basically the student union being a daytime venue that serves coffee, food as well as alcohol and does events. And I think in the old days you would run 2 or 3 events every week, club nights and things in student, and the majority of places I think that doesn't exist anymore. And you have to make events special and more one-off and based around key dates in the calendar, such as Halloween, Christmas, graduation, those types of things. It's not good enough just to open your doors and expect people to come anymore. We've started seeing a shift back this year. The trend prior to that was the other way around, so they drifted off from the student unions, I think in the early, well, certainly 2012 to 2015, and we know that was replicated across the country. Even some of the bigger student unions, with 20, 30,000 students in city centre locations with O2 academies, even they suffered, I know, from that decline. And it's not just, yes, there is a very strong competitive market out there with other providers getting increasingly aggressive in terms of what they offer in terms of drinks prices, sometimes going even cheaper than student unions, and other sort of marketing tactics. But also, I think student behaviours have changed. Students preload like a lot of people now, so they may They may have a significant amount of alcohol to drink before they go out, for instance. They may not go out till 11, 12 o'clock at night, which is different from the old days where, by 8:30 in here, we'd be full, 10 years ago. A suite of skills that they sort of use almost like a toolbox depending on the situation. I'd say they need to be very organised and open-minded, because there is a lot that goes into organising an event. Somebody who just walks in as a customer has got no idea about the amount of planning, technical, risk mitigation, and all these sort of boring things that need to be done to make that happen. I think in terms of they need to be open and honest about what can be delivered, the expectations both of the hosting enterprise, which might be us if we're using an outside contractor, the expectations of students. They certainly need to be plugged into current trends, which change very fast with the younger generation, particularly through social media, which is hard for institutions like universities to keep up with, to be honest. They need to know, have all, that whole set really of skills available to them.